Hi everyone, it's Caitlin from Really Big Plant. Thank you so much for joining me.
Really Big Plant.
For this video, I want to show you all of the new plants that I've gotten recently since I moved into this house. So I have gotten 10 new plants, which is more than I realized, but I've been doing some plant shopping at my grocery store, which has awesome plants, and I've just accumulated more plants than I even realized. So I want to go through and show them all to you today. So there's a couple of them that if you've been watching my channel or if you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen these plants already, but I want to talk about them a little bit today and tell you a really exciting story that happened. So I've got 10 plants from a couple of different genera. None of them are like extremely rare, but I do have some exciting ones I want to show you. So let's get into it. Okay, so the first plant that I want to show you, which also comes with a very exciting backstory, is this one, which if you are familiar with this plant, it's pretty much instantly recognizable from some of its morphological characteristics. So the stems, or the petioles, which is the leaf stem, on this plant have these really interesting fibers, these textures on there. So this is a philodendron squamiferum. This is a really cool plant. I've been wanting one for a really long time, and they used to be quite expensive. And I was lucky enough to find one of these in person at Equigenera's California location that opened really recently. My husband and I were driving home from a weekend in San Diego. I wasn't even sure if I wanted to stop off at Equigenera, but we decided to just pop in. We had our dog with us, so we weren't planning on staying for that long. And I walked into the greenhouse, instantly saw that I was surrounded by so many rare plants, and I took out my phone and started to just do a little pan just to post in my story or something. And I saw this bright yellow shirt in the distance, and I thought I saw Nicole from My Clean Leaves. I whispered to my husband, I see Nicole from My Clean Leaves. He looked around and he's like, is that not dude and Becca? And lo and behold, Adam and Becca and Nicole were all there in Equigenera having a best friends trip, and I couldn't even believe it. I was instantly just lost all of my words and couldn't even speak, but I ran up to them and introduced myself and got to take a photo with them, and it was just so serendipitous that I got to run into them. We weren't even planning on stopping at Equigenera, or we weren't even sure if we were gonna go there, and I'm so glad we did because we ended up meeting some of my biggest plant idols and inspiration. They were there making their content, shopping for some plants, just living that best friend plant friendship that we all aspire to. So lucky that I got to meet them. So that was really cool and spontaneous, and this plant is the plant that I ended up buying that day while I was there. So this plant has like a really special place in my heart. This plant was only like $25, which is really, really amazing because they used to be, you know, well over $100 for a tiny cutting, and this plant is huge. I'm just so excited about it, and I can't believe that I got to meet Becca De La Plants and Adam from Not Dude and Nicole from My Clean Leaves. It was just so cool. Hooray! Okay, so this next one is a really big plant, or will be someday, hopefully. It is a philodendron maximum. Oh, I'm so excited to have gotten one of these. I've been jealous of everyone who's talked about having one of these for a while. Philodendron maximum is the biggest philodendron. So I'm really excited to own one of these because, like its name, it is the maximum. It is the max, and I'm called Really Big Plant, so I feel like we're a match made in heaven, and I can't wait for this to become huge someday. This is a pretty big philodendron maximum specimen. I also got this from Equigenera. I ordered it from Equigenera USA, so this got shipped to me from Florida, and I would have gone in person to buy one of these from the Equigenera California location if I had known how close it was, because I only just ordered this pretty recently and then realized how close Equigenera was. I got this plant in the mail not too long before I had my, like, what I'm calling my house disaster, the flood and then the drought. I'm still living in the midst of construction right now, but I got this plant and then put it in water and then haven't done anything with it since because I had a whole bunch of crazy things happen in my life and just forgot to care for this. But it's sitting here in water. It's not too happy, so I really need to pot this up. If this isn't in my next video, give me crap about it because I really need to take care of this plant so that it can grow into a big healthy plant. So yeah, you'll see me pot this up real soon. The next plant I want to talk about is this one. This is an aloe hybrid that I believe is called aloe coral fire. I'm not completely sure if that's the right name of the cultivar, but it's the closest thing I could find online. This was a spontaneous plant purchase when I was shopping at Costco at the beginning of the year. One time when I was there was randomly this big cart full of plants that they put right in the middle of the clothes section. It was kind of weird. Normally they like kind of keep the plants by like the cut flowers and stuff in Costco. So this is a really fun plant. I think the leaves are just so beautiful. They have these teeth that have a little bit of a pink edge and these light green and white raised bumps all along the leaves, as well as these striations. It's just a really, really beautiful aloe. I don't have many aloe plants in my collection. I just have some aloe vera. But yeah, this one just called out to me when I saw it. It was so striking looking, and it was such a surprise to see it in the middle of Costco that I just had to get it. But yeah, I'm not exactly sure if this cultivar is aloe coral fire. Sometimes like when you don't know enough about plants, you don't know where the line is between what constitutes one variety from another. And I'm just not sure if this is coral fire. But my guess is when I was looking it up, coral fire seems to be like a pretty mass-produced type of aloe, and that in combination with the fact that I got this at Costco would kind of make sense that this would just be a mass-produced cultivar. So if you know what this is or have any suggestions on what this might be, if it's not coral fire, I would love to hear from you because I've been looking at so many aloe pictures trying to figure out what this is. I'm smelling it. I'm smelling it for root rot because yesterday I pruned up this plant, or I was removing dead leaves, and there was one leaf in there that was really juicy and kind of rotting deep on the inside. And when I pulled it out, it released like the worst smell I've ever smelled. I started looking through the plant to make sure that there wasn't like a dead rodent in the soil, because it smelled like something was just like rotting meat. But I guess this particular aloe maybe just smells really bad. Aloe has multiple types of sap. You know, I don't know if this is true of all aloe plants. I know this is true for aloe vera, at least. This is not an aloe vera, but there is the gel sap, which is what's used to make the medicinal ointments and stuff like that, from aloe vera. And then there's a secondary sap, which has this smell in it that smells like garlic and is usually only present right when a leaf is cut, or if there's really bad root rot and the plant is sort of rotting from the inside out. So I smelled this smell yesterday, and it made me worried that this plant was rotting. But after I removed that one leaf that was dying off in the middle, I think the smell has all gone away. I mean, you couldn't miss it. If you ever smell this stinky smell on your aloe, you should kind of pry into it and see if there's any dying leaves in there that are super wet and disgusting, and just get them out. And when that wetness dries up, the smell goes away too. So it doesn't smell anymore, thankfully, after I removed that leaf. And then let's talk about these two plants for a second, which if you watched my most recent Home Depot shopping video, you saw me purchase these and come home with them. So this is a monstera Peru, and it's beautiful. Not much has changed with it since I brought it home, besides it losing about 5 or 6 leaves from the center of the plant. Anytime you bring home a plant like this, that's really, really full in the center, and there's leaves pressed up against each other, and they're all overlapped in the middle. If the plant isn't getting super, super bright indirect light, like the conditions it was getting in the nursery where it was grown, usually you see some die-off of the leaves in the center, and sometimes it can feel like pretty major die-off. Like you can lose a lot of leaves in the middle as the plant transitions in the first like month or two into the light that you put it in, but that's pretty normal. Usually when you see that start to happen, the plant will kill off leaves until there's enough space in the center of the plant that some light is able to get through and keep those leaves in the middle alive. So I did lose a bunch of leaves in the center, but I'm not worried about it. There was one section on the plant with a leaf that was really like squished up and looked rotten when I first bought it. That was right over here. And it's already sprouted some new growth. So that's really exciting. There's this one leaf on the top that's a new leaf that came out shriveled up, but I'm not completely sure why. Oh, the dehumidifier. So the newest leaves on a lot of my plants are coming out weird because the humidity is so low right now in my house, but it's already putting out a new leaf right here. So that's good. And yeah, this plant is really healthy and it's making me happy to look at it. It's got all these glossy textured leaves and I just think it's so beautiful. So yeah, I'm really excited to have this Monstera Peru. Okay, so this one is my Euphorbia lactea cristata, and this plant is actually like a frankenplant. It's a Euphorbia lactea grafted onto another type of Euphorbia, Euphorbia nerreifolia, I think that's what it is. I'll put the name on. But anyway, yeah, this is two types of succulents actually grafted together. And a lot of times these can be a little bit tricky to keep alive because the health of the plant depends on both parts remaining healthy. So usually people are interested in the thing that's grafted onto the top, but this stem needs to remain healthy and happy in order to keep this top part alive. This plant is actually glued into the pot. Did not realize it at the time when I bought it, and I still have it glued in here with these rocks. I think the reason that they do this is that it's just easier for the sellers to manage the plants, especially the fragile ones that are kind of top heavy, if they glue all the rocks down. It keeps the soil in place, it keeps the plant in place, and it just makes it easier for the sellers to care for and transport, but makes it harder for ordinary people to care for, especially because this pot doesn't have a drainage hole in it. So I've watered this plant like maybe twice since I've had it in about, I guess it's been almost 2 months now. I maybe need to give it a little bit more water, but I'm scared to water it because it doesn't have drainage and I can't even access the soil and I really need to get it out of this pot, but it's really, really stuck in here. I need to work up my courage and pry it out. I couldn't even get this stick out, which held the little tag. I just put an old earring on it because I didn't know what else to do with this stick. You know, I need to get the plant out. Let's talk about these. I got both of these plants in San Francisco, actually. I was back in San Francisco for 8 days in January and ended up doing a little plant shopping, of course, and went back to some of my favorite boutique plant shops there and ended up getting 2 plants, which I brought home on the airplane. So this is a Ficus elastica shaveriana, and it has been on my wish list for a very long time. So this is an unusual variety of ficus. This is a really beautiful type of Ficus elastica, and I'm really, really excited to have one. So I've been looking at pictures of this plant online for ages, and had never actually seen one in person because they weren't something that were widely available in the US. So I saw this there at the store and I just had to get it. It was $46, which is a lot for a tiny plant. But then a couple days later, I saw that Steve's Leaves just stocked these as well, and I think they're selling them for a similar price. So I don't feel so bad that I paid a lot for this, but this is a plant that will definitely have its price come down probably over the course of the year. But I was just so excited when I saw it. I really, really wanted to get it. It had a ripped leaf when I bought it at first, and it's okay. It hasn't grown. Ficus tend to be kind of slow growers when you first bring them home, but yeah, I think its leaves are just so beautiful. Should I put a little piece of tape on this leaf? Yeah, let's tape it. Let's tape it. Okay, I just have a little clear tape here, and I'm gonna tape this leaf. Okay, so I'm gonna put this piece of tape on the top of the leaf. Typically, the stomata are on the bottom of the leaf. The stomata are like the pores that open and close to allow for the gas exchange that plants need to create sugars that they need to live. So I'm putting this piece of tape on the top of the leaf. Easy. Now it's just like a little band-aid on there, but it looks a lot better actually, so hooray! I'm glad I did that. Super excited to have this little plant, and I'm excited to see how it grows. I know a lot of people were really excited that these just came onto the market. I hope some of you were able to get your hands on one of these too. I know Steve's Leaves has them, at least as of a couple days ago, and there's a couple of places that I've seen selling these online. And then the other plant that I got in San Francisco, and this is a Hoya carnosa compacta variegata. So I've also been wanting one of these for a really long time and decided that I was just gonna wait for a reasonable price before I actually bought one. This was like 20 or 25 or something, and there's a couple of different plants in here. It looked more full to me than ones that I've seen at that price in a long time. I'm really excited to have it now, and I can't wait to watch it grow and turn into a bigger variegated Hindu rope. It's already put out this this whole little tendril here with a couple of leaves on it. It's grown like 4 leaves already, tiny baby ones, since I brought it home. So I brought both of these home on the airplane with me. Transporting these 2 plants was probably one of my less successful, less smooth airport plant transfers. I've traveled with plants a lot of times, but this time I was trying to protect this ficus, especially because it had the broken leaf, and I didn't have a lot of packaging material because I was just visiting San Francisco and didn't have all my supplies there and didn't want to go out and buy stuff. So I ended up packing this plant into like the remains of a box that had cans of beer in it. And then I put this into a little takeout container, and when I went through security, they did not like the way I packaged my plants. Not to throw my husband under the bus here or anything, but he made the mistake of telling the grumpy security guard that there were rare plants in the packages, and then they had to really shake them up, you know? So that was unfortunate, but these plants made it through security eventually, but they really didn't like the super packaged ficus in a beer box that was kind of beaten up. They really had to totally unpack it and take a look at it. So I would recommend packing your plants in a way that the plant is easily visible, because they just didn't like what I did at security. But anyway, I did get these plants home and they're here now. Phew. But yeah, don't tell them at the airport that you're transporting a rare plant. Just tell them it's like, you know, a live plant, and then act casual about it, because I think if they can tell that you're anxious, they give you a harder time. Not always, but that tends to be my experience at the airport. There was one time when I was flying with my Jaboa. Right before I moved here, I brought it to my sister's dorm so that she could have it for a little bit. And when I was going through security, the lady recognized it. She said, "Is that a snake plant? I love mother-in-law's tongue." And she was extra nice because she was excited that I was flying with a plant. So, you know, it can go either way. And I'm gonna show you some plants that I got from my local grocery store. So unfortunately, one of them is just a story and some pictures because the plant is no longer with me. The very first plant I bought after moving here was a variegated Hoya australis Lisa that I found at the grocery store for only like, I think it was like $6 or $7 or something. I couldn't even believe how cheap it was. And it was still warm out, at least for a few weeks right after I moved here. And I put the plant outside or kind of around the corner from my door, and unfortunately I forgot that I put it there. And then we had a couple of days of torrential rain, and the plant ended up in a location where water that was pouring off of my roof was literally just pummeling the plant, and it knocked out all of the dirt, and I forgot actually that the plant was there for the first like 2 days of rain, and by the time I realized what was happening, it was super dead. So that plant is no longer with us, and I realized that the weather here was a little bit more unpredictable than I had thought initially right after I moved here. So I learned my lesson the hard way with that plant. It is no longer with me, but I thought I would show you that footage. I thought it was kind of funny to see all the perlite like floating away. Okay, and then the other plants that I got from my grocery store. Uh-oh. Okay, let me back up my camera. Okay, can you see this? So this lovely, really big plant is an alocasia metalhead. And do you see that sign? It was only $40. Some of the leaves are like my height when this thing is resting on the ground, and I just can't believe that I found this at my grocery store. It's a hybrid between the Alocasia portora, which is a huge green variety of alocasia, and the Alocasia lauterbachkiana, which is the purple sword variety. And it makes this huge, dark-leafed, beautiful alocasia. And I just feel so lucky that I got this one. And funny enough, when I was at the checkout, the checker literally said to me, "Oh, you got the one no one wanted." And when I was there was only one left. So I guess I got the last one of these, and it was apparently the worst one in the store. So I can't even imagine what the other ones must have looked like. They must have been beautiful. But apparently this was the worst one, and I think it's awesome. I got this like pretty shortly after I moved in, and there was a lot of like holiday plant stuff still available. So this plant is actually covered in glitter because it was shoved in with a whole bunch of poinsettias that have those like, sometimes they put glitter on the poinsettias, you know, to make the leaves really shiny. So this was surrounded by plants that were covered in glitter. So I've tried to clean this plant off many times, but it still has glitter on a lot of the leaves, and it's unfortunately pretty sad right now. I had to move it out of my living room into my front room, and I didn't realize for the first few days that I had a ton of plants in there that room is really cold, and even though it gets really bright light, the heat somehow doesn't flow into that room that well since I've had the doors shut and had it closed off. It's freezing in there, and this plant I think got really droopy and a little bit sad. So I moved it up here, and I'm gonna put it back there by those windows now, and hopefully its leaves will stand up and grow tall and continue to be a huge, really big plant. So yeah, I've never had an alocasia this big in my care before, partially because I've never seen one for this good of a price. Alocasias can sometimes be a finicky plant. Sometimes they kind of like die all at once, and it can be a risk to invest in a huge one. I've worked in a bunch of plant shops, but they were all boutique plant stores, as in they sell pretty pricey plants, and plants like this at those boutique plant shops tend to be in the hundreds of dollars. They might even be like over 200 for a plant that looks like this. Sometimes you get a deal and you get one for like 80 or like 120, but even with an employee discount, that's a lot to spend on a plant that I wasn't sure if I could keep alive. But this at the grocery store, $40 just seems so reasonable to me for a plant this huge. I'd never seen one priced this well. So I brought it home and I have it here now, and I'm so excited about it. So this is the newest leaf. And this is the leaf that came before it that was like getting crushed by the like zip tie that was holding this plant together. All the leaves were tied up when I bought it, and the newest leaf that was coming out, which was this one, was a little bit ripped up from being squished, but that's okay because it's a big, beautiful leaf. This one is dying off and is covered in glitter, so I might just cut it off really soon. I stand right next to the pot. It's a little taller than me actually when I pick this up. This is the newest one right here, a little shorter than me. This one is the biggest on the plant, I think. It's a really big leaf. This plant is beautiful. I got this plant from the grocery store the other day. So this is a jungle velvet calathea, Calathea warskowesii, and it's got these really beautiful velvety leaves. So these are one of my favorite calatheas. They're also one of the more difficult ones to care for in my experience, but I saw this at the grocery store when I was there last week, and it was only $15. So I guess maybe I just got so used to San Francisco expensive prices after working in plant shops, but this seemed like a steal to me. This is really exciting that I saw this plant there and I had to just get it. I got rid of my last one. No one even wanted it when I moved. It was looking really bad. It didn't even have a single leaf on it that looked fully healthy, and it was still alive, and I'd had it for many years, but I decided to just get rid of it. And then after I moved and I was editing my videos and watched myself talking about how I was getting rid of the calatheas, I actually got so upset during the editing process. I felt so sad in my decision to get rid of my calatheas, even though they were all struggling. And I decided that I was going to get another one of these when I saw it, and it's gonna do my best to try again. So I got this plant and I'm really excited to have it now. I honestly don't have super high hopes, but it's beautiful right now, and I'm gonna see what I can do. My water quality here compared to San Francisco's water quality is really bad, and I've noticed that a lot of my plants have started to develop like salt burns on the leaves, or chemical burns from minerals that are in the water. So I'm gonna try to give this one distilled water when I remember, but I have a feeling that this one is going to get those crusty edges because that tends to happen to these calatheas when you give them non-distilled water. They just don't know what to do with excess minerals, and they try to get rid of them by storing them in their leaf tips. That's sort of their version of trying to get them out of their system, and it results in those crusty edges that you see on calatheas. But hopefully this one will last for a little while for me. I'm going to try my best to keep it alive. Okay, so here I have a beautiful, although spider mite infested currently, Alocasia macrorrhiza stingray. So this is a type of alocasia that I've been wanting for a long time. This was considered like a rare alocasia, and this also had a really high price for a while. And I've noticed even online, some places when you look this up are still selling small versions of this plant for a lot of money. But this was only, I think, like $25 from the grocery store. I always remember there being this interesting discrepancy with this alocasia stingray. At the peak of its popularity a couple of years ago, people were paying a lot of money for these. And then I would have customers who would come into the plant store and tell me that they found one of these at Trader Joe's for $25. And the most common place that I would hear people get this plant was very cheap from Trader Joe's, or people who paid a lot for it from a boutique plant store or ordered it online. And I don't know why this has always been a grocery store plant, I guess, but I found mine in a grocery store as well. So I'm really excited to have this. It does already have spider mites, which is unfortunate. I haven't had it for too long, and I washed it when I first got it. But I just noticed last night as I was gathering all my plants to make this video that this plant is pretty infested. It's got a really ruffly texture, which is ideal for spider mites to inhabit. It's really hard to get them out of those tiny little cracks, and used to be a deterrent for me for getting these kind of plants because I was always so worried that I would have too many spider mites, that I didn't want to buy plants with all these crevices. But over time, and after dealing with lots of different types of pests, I found that spider mites tend to be relatively easy to eradicate if you are committed to getting rid of them, and you just like wash your plant off and spray it with a little neem oil every time you water it for about a month or two. So that's the plan for this plant. We're gonna have to treat it for spider mites. Last night I was up at like 2 in the morning washing this plant off in my shower. I didn't treat it with any oil or anything like that yet. I just gave it a quick rinse. So we're gonna be doing that coming up soon too. So yeah, this is my beautiful stingray. I love that I have this plant now. I bought it a while ago and kind of thought that it would die by now. I wasn't sure if in the like low humidity here it would just shrivel up. So far, so good. It hasn't shriveled or anything, but it just developed spider mites, which is something to be expected in low humidity with alocasias. But the alocasia stingray is just so gorgeous. I can't believe what a beautiful plant this is. It's got those mottled stems with the little maroon and the white, and then the leaves with the just super interesting shape with the sting of the stingray. It's so cool. So yeah, I'm really, really excited to have this plant, but I'm gonna go pop it back in my bathroom and wash my hands before I touch any other ones. All right, so those are my 10 new plants that I've gotten since moving here. I love each and every one of them, and I'm really excited to be growing my collection. I'm so happy to introduce these new plant members of my family to you, and to tell you a little bit about them, and to tell you my story about meeting some of my plant idols. That was so exciting. I feel like it's like been a while since I've made a video where I show you a whole bunch of new plants, so this is really exciting for me to show these to you. So yeah, I would love to hear your opinion on any of these, or if you've gotten any of these recently, or if you really dislike any of them. I would love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that your plants are bringing you joy, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye.